Hello, BookTube. I thought you needed to see that face as much as I did. It's Sunday, but we have mail. And there's a big question that hangs over today's mail haul. We've got 6 packages here. I think there's 1 box. All the packages are fairly skinny. But good things can come in slim packages. The main question isn't the size. The question is there going to be anything in this mail haul that is going to dislodge me from the selected writings of Samuel Johnson? I got this just yesterday. This is a great big thing from Oxford University Press, and I have been lodged in it. Lost in it. I haven't wanted to be found. I have been lost. Just reading and enjoying myself. But that can't last forever. And I know that. So we're going to look through these 6 packages and see if there's anything here that can dislodge me for today, for this afternoon. So let's see what this first one is. Advanced copy, finished copy, something I've been expecting. Let's see. Oh, okay. All right, this is from Zondervan. Zondervan is great. They're a religious publishing house in America. Didn't know this was coming. This is a March release? No, April 21st. April 21st. This is by David Van Drunen, and it's called Politics After Christendom. Political Theology in a Fractured World. For more than a millennium, beginning in the early Middle Ages, most Western Christians lived in societies that sought to be comprehensively Christian, ecclesiastically, economically, legally, and politically. But in a gradual process beginning a few hundred years ago, Christendom weakened and finally crumbled. Today, most Christians in the world live in pluralistic political communities, and Christians themselves have very different opinions about what to make of the demise of Christendom and how to understand their status and responsibilities in the post-Christendom world. This book argues that Scripture leaves Christians well equipped for living in such a world as this. Well, yes, it does. It originated in such a world as that. But still, Scripture gives no indication that Christians should strive to establish some version of Christendom. Instead, it prepares them to live in societies that are indifferent or hostile to Christianity. Yes, societies in which believers must live faithful lives as sojourners and exiles. Oh, I like the sound of that. I very much like the sound of the thinking behind this. I don't agree with the premise at all. The crumbling fall of Christendom? What on earth? It's not in America. It's not possible to get elected to dog catcher, municipal dog catcher, as an atheist, for instance. It's just not possible to do. No matter how good you are, you have to lie about it. Donald Trump, for instance, is president of the United States. He's never given a single thought to Christianity. He is certainly an atheist. Not for any rational point of view, but because he's not capable of submission to anyone, right or wrong. So, and from him on down, it's not like you need his 2 Corinthians to know the truth. You can name, I can name, anybody can name plenty of high-profile politicians in the last 50 years in the United States who were obviously Christian, or obviously atheist, and paying lip service to Christianity, but they couldn't have been elected without that lip service. And the current Senate of the United States is almost entirely composed of absolute crackpot, wingnut, paleo right-wing, young earth creationist Christians who don't believe in evolution. So I don't see if we should all crumble so bad. but still, this sounds fascinating. The premise could be just a thing invoked by the pub sheet, or the author could invoke it himself, but handle it with more nuance. Either way, I'm all for it. Good Lord. I have made overtures. I have been diligent. I have made overtures. Recently, not in the last month, but before that, I have made overtures to people to be the person who reviews religion titles like this one for me, for Open Letters Review. None of those overtures have been returned. It wouldn't matter now anyway, because I'm not mailing books at the post office. But still, sometime in the future, I would like to think I'm still going to need such a person, or would like such a person. I'd like it not to be me. I'd like it especially if that person had religious credentials. I've made overtures to pastors. I've made overtures to priests, just to, because it would help them, and it would also it would be a voice looking at these things that isn't my own. Well, let's see here. Who is this? What is this next one? Okay. All right. This is yet another work in translation. Incredible. It's a small thing from an other press. There's nothing for me to show you here. It's not. This is what it's going to look like. It's called Wretchedness. I don't know if you can make that out. This is what it's going to look like. And it is by Andrew Tichy, Andrzej, and then Tichy with an accent over the Y. He was born in Prague to a Polish mother and a Czech father, and has lived in Sweden since 1981. So I have no idea how to pronounce that name. And this takes place. This is a novel, I guess. Is this a novel? It doesn't tell me. It takes place in Malmo, Sweden. A cellist meets a spun-out junkie. That could have been me. I'm assuming the cellist thinks, or maybe it's the junkie that thinks that. His mind starts to glitch between his memories and the avant-garde music he loves, and he descends into his past, hearing all over again the chaotic song of his youth. He emerges to a different sound, heading for a crash. From sprawling housing projects to underground clubs to squat parties, Wretchedness is a blistering trip through the underbelly of Europe's cities. Powered by a furious, unpredictable beat, this is a pan to brotherhood, to those who didn't make it, however hard they fought, and a visceral indictment of the poverty which took them. Okay, well, that doesn't tell me anything about it, but that sounds fascinating. This comes out on the 2nd of June. I wonder what that is. Well, I'll find out. But both intriguing, but nothing that has dislodged Dr. Johnson quite yet. So let's keep going and see. There might not be one, in which case I will gladly spend the rest of the day with Dr. Johnson. Okay, this next one is also a novel. Comes out in August. Look at all this stuff. I do not need any of this stuff. Good Lord. Do I? Oh, wait. Now, do I get anything except stuff? No, I don't. Wow. I don't get anything except stuff. Good Lord. All blurbs. The only thing wow, this is the first time this happened this year. I'm just going to throw away the entire pub sheet. There's nothing on it except blurbs and hype. I was thinking maybe I would keep it because it has a specific release date, but that's stamped on the book. So let's see. Do we have anything? Do we have anything? No, the whole back of the book is blurbs. The inside of the book is the author's bio. And the inside of it's got French flaps, and the inside of the French flap is the author's publicity tour in August. Okay, so this is Raven Leilani. This is her debut novel. This is called Luster. And it comes out in August. And unless I can find that is literally all I can tell you, unless I yet more blurbs, 1,000 more blurbs. Okay, all right, here we go. Mark this moment. This is your first encounter with the enormous power of Raven Leilani. You're going to want to remember it. It's a debut novel. This Luster is Leilani's first novel. It is razor sharp, darkly comic, sexually charged, socially disruptive. It will catch you off guard with its "what did I just read" prose, impress you with its maturity, delight you with its willingness to feature a female lead who is unabashedly sex-forward. I don't know what that means. Rouse and rattle you with its straightforward depiction of how we live and talk and don't talk about race. Move you with its portrait of a young woman struggling to believe in the possibility of her own talent. Luster offers a surprise on nearly every page, whether through plot, character, baldness of desire, the marvelous inventiveness of its language, or the incredibly deft ways in which Leilani weaves unapologetic cultural and political commentary into the very sentences that dissect and hold out for recognition the broken bits of our souls. Okay, all right. Raven Leilani's work has been published in Granta, McSweeney's Quarterly Concern, Narrative, Columbia Journal, Conjunctions, The Cut, and New England Review, among other publications. She won Narrative's 9th Annual Poetry Contest and Matt Clark's Editor's Choice Prize, as well as short fiction prizes from Bat City Review and Blue Earth Review, and this is her first novel. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know anything about it. but it doesn't come out until early August, so I don't have to know anything about it. I've got 4 pages of publicity material, and I've got publicity material over every single inch of the front and inside of a book with French flaps, so more territory. And yet I don't know anything at all about the book, nothing whatsoever, except a feeling in the back of the lizard part of my brain. I have a feeling that I am not welcome here. I have a feeling that the reason why this thing is loaded, literally the equivalent of 7 typed pages of praise before anyone has read the book except that handful of people. I have a feeling the reason for that doesn't have anything to do with the strength of the book, although maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the greatest fiction debut in the history of English letters. I have never seen this kind of fanfare before, so it would have to be the greatest fiction debut in the history of English letters in the last 1100 years. Maybe so. We shall see. I don't know anything about it, so I'm going to have to dip into it and start reading. But not right away. Not right away. It still doesn't dislodge Dr. Johnson. Of course, a debut novel is not going to do that. But you see, I'm a little distrustful because of the tenor of a lot of that pub sheet and the tenor of a lot of the advanced blurbs, which is yes, this is a debut novel, but it's better than anything anyone has ever written, and you had better not criticize it. If you criticize it, then you have some sociological alt-right reason for doing so. You're certainly not going to criticize it because it's bad, because it's I don't know, enormously impressed with itself, plotless, meandering, pan-shallow, conflict-free, any of those reasons, or any other reasons. We shall see. We shall see. August is a long way off. Okay, all right. This next one is also fiction. Boy, fiction's certainly not going to dislodge Dr. Johnson. This is for mid-April. This is this another debut novel? I think it is. I think this is another debut novel. We saw this already, and the publisher, Henry Holt, kept the same cover. This comes out in mid-April. This is by Molly Polig, and it's called The Unsuitable. Yes, this is a debut. So we have another debut here. Okay, great. And Wretchedness may be the author's first book translated into English. So we're in the middle of a lot of fiction here. And we saw this already. Gothic horror with a feminist twist. The Unsuitable tells the story of Isolde Wince, who believes that that her deceased mother haunts her by inhabiting a scar on her neck and communicating with her. Isolde's emotionally distant father is determined to marry off his awkward and plain daughter, and he thinks he has finally found a match in a man whose medical condition has turned his skin silver. As Isolde's running conversation with her mother's ghost becomes increasingly volatile and uncontrollable, she turns to extreme measures to exert her own independence. I wonder if those have anything to do with a pair of scissors on the cover. Plot twists and a wickedly dark sense of humor conspire to create an undeniable page-turner, and the shocking ending will leave readers shattered. It reads like a dark fairy tale for the age of #MeToo. Okay, all right, this also comes with lots and lots of blurbs. And once again, I'm wondering if it's criticizable or if it is signaling, subtly or otherwise, that it is not. We shall see. Her father is emotionally distant and is arranging a marriage between her and a man with silver skin. I haven't touched the advanced copy that I have yet, but I get the strong suspicion, I have the strong impression here that this book is not set in the late 1700s. If there's internet in here, if it's set in the modern day, then why is a father arranging a marriage for his daughter? Unless all men are monsters. To cut through the chase, to cut through all the intervening layers until the shocking conclusion at the end of the book is all men are monsters. Like the Pisces, the novel The Pisces, or any other of the books that are heralded this way. We shall see. We shall see. And we shall see a lot sooner because this is a mid-April thing. Baby, what are you doing? Fathers can't arrange marriages for their daughters. in the West. I guess I should just break with the suspense, right? And go to this is a wonderfully designed thing from Henry Holt. No time is given. Well, I am not going to search through it while you're watching. I see no mention of technology, so maybe this is set in the late 1700s. Even then, it would have been frowned on, but it might technically have been possible. No, there's no. Well, I'll have to dig into it, but not for a bit. All right, let's move on. We've just got a couple of packages to go here. Are they all going to be fiction? What have we got next here? Okay, no, this next one is history. This next one is from Harvard University Press, and its date is mid-July. It looks like World War II history. This is by Victoria de Grazia, and it's called The Perfect Fascist, a story of love, power, and morality in Mussolini's Italy. Okay, so The Perfect Fascist. An original story of Mussolini's Italy as seen through the life and loves of one of Il Duce's highest political and military officers, Attilio Teruzzi. The prototype of the fascist new man destined to build a superior society, de Grazia shows us... Okay, all right. Our author was not a prototype of fascist Italy, but I know what you mean. De Grazia shows us how, in his moral pieties and intimate betrayals, his violence and opportunism, Teruzzi was a forefather of the illiberal politicians of today. Illiberal. Love it. Love it. You've got the word fascist right there in the title of the book, but what's the word? Even here? What are you, a member of the American press? Even here, you're pulling your punches by saying illiberal instead of fascist. That's crazy. I am illiberal. Okay? What you're talking about here is a goose-stepping, face-beating, dissent-crushing fascist, not someone who's illiberal. Anyway, if 2016 to 2020 hasn't brought that home that lesson, then maybe it's too late for that lesson to be brought home. And maybe young people down the line, 80 years from now, will look back and say, why didn't they call these things by their names? Why? Why did they insist on saying inaccurate or misstatement when the person involved lied? When it was a lie? When the person knew it was wrong and said it anyway, which is the definition not of a misstatement or an inaccuracy, but of a lie. Anyway. Teruzzi was a devoted fascist, oh, there you go, thank you, who commanded the National Fascist Black Shirts and was a poster boy for the fascist ideals of manhood and male duty in the Italy Mussolini hoped to create. Yet his personal life was not exactly what the new fascist political moral elite was modeled upon. It was messy, with 2 Jewish wives fighting to take his side along with innumerable other women entertaining him. Coming from lowly social origins, Teruzzi hoped to replace the traditional elite and their loyalty to king and church with a loyalty to Mussolini. But the leader was unpredictable, and his many compromises forced Teruzzi to struggle to keep his place in the fascist hierarchy. That sounds fascinating. Through a rich trove of family letters and court records, de Grazia constructs the life and failed marriages of this man to portray the rise and fall of Mussolini. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds very good. And there were others. In the Mussolini's fascist upper echelon, there were people who were far more compromised even than this guy. One in particular, one fairly notable in particular, who was not only as gay as a morning in May, but a horrible, animalistic, gay predator. Perfectly well known to Mussolini and his brother. Perfectly well known to the king. Perfectly well known, but sort of winked at because he managed to keep it discreet. And of course, Nazi Germany had such figures as well. in the Krupp family and out of the Krupp family. So the author is a professor of history at Columbia University and the founding editor of Radical History Review. Well, okay. All right, I'm all for it. Great. It's so this comes out in July, and it sounds like it's basically a biography of Attilio Teruzzi. So that's interesting. That's interesting right there. I imagine that the fascination, the real fascination point here will be all of the original research. It won't be the book's reflection on Mussolini's Italy. Although I could be wrong. The author could be great about that as well. The Perfect Fascist. Okay, so very much a Steve book, but too far away and a little too specific, a little too in the weeds to dislodge Dr. Johnson. So we only have one possibility left. It's a box, yes, but it's paper thin and light as a feather. So its chances are not good. Let's see. Okay, this is the thin book coming out in April. I think we saw this already. No date in April, just April. Just April. Okay. All right, well, I don't have a release date, but except for the month. But I think we saw this already. This is... baby girl. Are you getting restless, baby? Are you? We're going to go on a long walk in the woods. That's what we're going to do. This is by Federico Finkelstein, and it's called A Brief History of Fascist Lies. And it's not kidding. It's thin. And it's an April thing. I don't know the date in April, but I guess it doesn't matter. Since bookstores will be closed in April, right? I'm assuming. These mail halls are both of us, you and me, dreaming about the future, not making concrete plans. Although you can download ebooks of all these things. I know that ebooks are ridiculously overpriced for new releases, but there are a huge number of books that are free. Project Gutenberg is free, and it's not just, if you're familiar with copyright-free canonical classics from your whatever electronic reading device you have, they will all have a sort of native library of such things, and it's all the usual suspects. And you think that any free, copyright-free library of downloadable digital text will be the usual suspects? That is not true for Project Gutenberg. It has tens of thousands of titles, huge numbers of which are fascinating, but are certainly not Jane Eyre. But even so, even though ebooks are overpriced, and certainly those prices are not going to tend downwards now that they're literally the only game left in town. Bookstores in Boston have not been closed as of this Sunday, but by next Sunday they'll be closed, absolutely. And in the UK, I think some of you might have seen the series of just incredibly irate tweets from Waterstone's employees who are going to work. They're being forced to go to work. They don't have any paid time off. They're being told if you want to stay out of work because you're worried you might catch a virus against which you have no immunity, you can always use your sick time. And maybe, if we're feeling generous, you can swap sick time with someone who really wants it and give up your own. But that's going to be, that matter in the UK and America and a whole bunch of places that still haven't done it, that matter is going to be taken out of the shop owners and the company's hands. People are just going to be ordered to stay home. So we won't have that. We won't have these in bookstores. But there'll be ebooks. And I would like to hope that publishers will make that easier, maybe make it cheaper, maybe push it a little more. So all of these things will be available. And we'll just have to I'll make a separate video. We'll have a separate conversation about your life in ebooks, because that's going to become crucial in the next month, I would think. But anyway, what have we got here? In this short companion to his book From Fascism to Populism in History, well-known historian Federico Finkelstein explains why fascists regarded simple and often hateful lies as truth, and why so many of their followers believed the falsehoods. Throughout the history of the 20th century, many supporters of fascist ideologies regarded political lies as truth incarnated in their leader. From Hitler to Mussolini, that's not a very broad range now, is it? Fascist leaders capitalized on lies as the base of their power and popular sovereignty. Those two examples did, and there are plenty of fascist monsters who were never photographed in the same car. There are plenty of people who never knew Hitler and Mussolini who were also fascists, and the taxonomies of the strategy and the kinds of lies they tell are vigorously updated in 2020. I wonder why, and show a remarkable consistency. It's remarkably consistent, the lies that fascists tell. They don't go far afield. They know what works, and I believe they learn from each other. I think they learn from the history of each other. You scratch the surface of any one of, for instance, the 6 dozen extremely prominent and extremely powerful fascists in leadership positions, in national leadership positions in the world today, in 2020. Scratch them even slightly, and you find that they were in their youth students of the kinds of fascists who are being talked about here and earlier ones. So, yeah, I believe that it's not just that the lies are the things that work the best. I think it's also that you have active students, you have willing acolytes. This history continues in the present, when lies again seem increasingly to replace empirical truth. Now that actual news is presented as, quote, fake news, and false news becomes government policy, a brief history of fascist lies urges us to remember that the current talk of, quote, post-truth has a long political and intellectual lineage we cannot ignore. Now, we can't ignore it, but how much of it is going to be in here? It's 100 pages long. I guess I'll find out, because this is an April release. I don't know when in April. It's odd how much that bugs me, but it's because I just made my shelf. I just changed my books, my forthcoming books, up in the other room. Cleared off all of March and moved up April, and then sorted April by week of release. And that's why it's on my mind, because I don't know where to put this. So anyway, that is our mail for today. Lots of interesting stuff, including a couple of debuts, fiction debuts, but nothing that dislodges Dr. Johnson. We have a brief history of fascist lies. This is coming up in April. We have The Perfect Fascist coming up in July. We have The Unsuitable, a debut novel, and also Luster, a debut novel. We have Wretchedness, by an author who was born in Prague and has lived in Sweden since 1981. No idea if this is his debut, but it was shortlisted for the August Prize in 2016, so it's at least that old. And lastly, The Politics After Christendom, Political Theology in a Fractured World. Some of the claims in the pub sheet sort of raised an eyebrow, but the idea, the central, what looks to me like the central organizing idea, which is that Christianity was actually born and raised in a world like the one we have today, that's fascinating. So I will get right on it. However, I will not get to any of these today. I'm going to stick with Dr. Johnson today. I was perfectly open to something in this dislodging me the way this thing dislodged everything that had come before it. I was perfectly open to that. Nobody did. So the great Cam gets it. He keeps it. So Dr. Johnson is my companion for the rest of the day. But I'll get to these things. I'll sort them, and I'll get to them in due time. So that's your Sunday mail. We'll see if the mail continues tomorrow. Sorry for the length, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.